That one, is that what you mean by number two? Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. What should it be?
I
It's
don't know. I'm not really sure what's this sentence trying to express.
exactly. That's what the slide is for. To show you that the order in which you put the information in a sentence is very important. So for those three sentences that have the confusing placement, the misplaced modifiers or modifier phrases, I want you to rewrite them properly. So Nathan, when you get to number two, look at that one and try to figure out if you can see how it should be worded for correct placement instead of this incorrect, confusing placement. So you're rewriting those last sentences: the damaged student's car, I fought off the dog in my pajamas, finding it ransacked, I entered the house. You're rewriting those confusing placement sentences, not with anything new, but just with the correct placement, okay? So same information, correct placement. You're correcting the misplaced modifiers in those three sentences, everyone. The student's damaged car. I, in my pajamas, fought off the dog. Finding the house ransacked, I entered it. The student's damaged car. I was in my pajamas when I fought off the dog. Actually, I didn't even realize. Sorry. Same thing for you, Claire. Better word than when. Anyone could answer that, though. Anyone who's got it? Oh, actually, hers is constructed differently than yours, Nathan. So when is different. Okay. When is fine here. I entered the house after finding it ransacked. Good. No one chose to write this one as I entered the ransacked house, which is interesting. I entered the house after finding it ransacked, works well. If you'll notice, all that you need to do, the issue with these sentences is how far the modifiers are from their subjects, right? So damaged is a word away from car. So it applies to student because it applies to the closest noun. So it's far away from the noun it should apply to, which is car. It's next to student, so it applies to students. In my pajamas is next to dog instead of near the subject of I. Finding it ransacked, I entered the house. Ransacked is too far away from its subject, which is house. So modifier should really be as close to the subject it's modifying as possible. If you look at Claire's sentence, I entered the house after finding it ransacked. So she introduced the pronoun it, right? And put ransacked right next to it, which works. So it applies to it. Finding the house ransacked, I entered it. Also works because Jasmine has reconstructed the sentence where house is next to ransack. Now let's look at that, Nathan. It's not by, that's the option. So we'll have everybody look at Nathan's second sentence and see where he uses when and what would work better than when in the way that he's constructed this sentence. The student's car has been damaged. Good. I could understand that, Nathan, because I think you were turning that into a full on sentence, which is fine. The way that you've done it is fine. It didn't need to be. It could have just been a phrase like I had it, but that's also fine. You got the point. I fought the dog off when wearing pajamas. Is there a better option than when for that second sentence of Nathan's, everyone? I entered the house, but I found the house had been ransacked. That's fine, Nathan, but you doubled up on something that you didn't need to. So Nathan, can you identify the difference between your sentence, your final sentence, and Jasmine and Claire's final sentence? What did you do that wasn't really necessary that makes your sentence longer and wordier?
Like I repeat the word house instead
Yeah,
of but found it has been ransacked.
exactly. Exactly. And you don't actually need has been either. You could just say I found it ransacked. But good. You picked up on the error. You really don't want to repeat your subject in full in the way that you did so soon after you just mentioned it. So you use a pronoun instead. Same if you were talking about a person, you wouldn't say, I went to Christopher's house and found Christopher in his bedroom, right? You would say, I went to Christopher's house and found him in his bedroom. You'd sound kind of crazy if you were repeating Christopher all the time. And it's the same thing with objects. What about in your second sentence, Nathan? I fought the dog off when wearing pajamas. What would work where when is. That would be actually better. Jasmine, do you have an answer for that? Help Nathan out.
Maybe put wearing pajamas closer to I, because it describes, I mean, like I.
Well, yes, but there's also another option. Claire, what do you think would work better than when in his sentence?
When wearing pajamas, I fought the dog off.
Well, it's not quite that we need to reword or move the words around. I fought the dog off while wearing pajamas would work. Yeah, thanks, Jasmine. Exactly. When it does not need to be, while works better here. Just it's kind of hard to explain, but it just does. When works better when you're talking about something that's not happening simultaneously. So, for example, I was fighting the dog when my dad walked into the kitchen, right? I was fighting the dog off when the police arrived. It's when is for when something else starts to happen. While is better when something is happening at the same time as the other thing. So you're already in the pajamas, you're fighting off the dog while you're wearing them. When would be better if something starts to happen, not if it's been happening at the same time the whole time. Does that make sense? It's sort of hard to explain, but I fought the dog off while wearing pajamas, not when. When is for something that's starting in that moment, not something that's been going on the whole time. So while would be a better choice here. Nathan? Okay, let's keep going. Jasmine, read until I tell you to stop, please.
Revising adjectives. He was a nice guy. What's your definition of nice? It was a difficult time for me. What made it difficult? How is it so?
How would you improve these ideas if you were the writer of them?
Um, like it says, like, what's your definition? Because, like, nice means, like, maybe he's, like, dressed, like, neatly, or maybe he's actually, like, kind. So find something that's more descriptive to what you're trying to say.
How?
Like, if I meant that he was, like, dressed neatly, then I would say, oh, I don't really know what I would say. I would probably end up rewriting the whole sentence. But if I was trying to say like he's like a nice dude personality wise, like he was a kind guy, he was generous or like selfless, something more like pinpointy than nice.
Right? And what else could you do, Claire, to illuminate these ideas in your writing? Beyond just a word change, what else would be helpful?
Um, I'm not sure, like adding a phrase or something that explains it more.
Right. Is this showing or is this telling?
Oh, this is telling.
Right. So what could we do to show?
Uh, like add details on like what he did and
Exactly. Yeah. Don't tell us that the character is nice. Show us that they're nice. Show them doing something nice for someone, helping someone out, giving them something, being generous, being friendly. Don't tell us it's a difficult time. Describe what's going on. What's the problem? What's the chaos? What's the hardship, right? These are telling. So beyond just revising the adjectives, it was kind of a trick because I know it's titled revising adjectives, but I want you to go beyond that, right? It's not just about changing nice to kind or nice to friendly. Show the person being this adjective. Do not describe them. Don't tell the reader how to feel about the character. You should never tell them how to feel. This is a nice character. That's the bad character. That's the mean character. That's the dumb character. Show them being that, right? Show them embodying that adjective. Show them being that personality. So instead of telling us this is a nice character, you're going to demonstrate them doing nice things. Instead of it being a difficult time, tell us what is going on. And we are figuring out that it's a difficult time. We're figuring out that they're nice. We're figuring out that they're mean. It's not much fun to read something that just tells you how to feel the whole time, tells you what to think about everybody and everything, right? let's talk about sensory information like you did earlier, Claire. Really, really important. So the five senses, we all know these, right? And we're going to incorporate them as much as possible. So visualize the scene, note everything that would have to do with writing an effective description. So the colors, sequences, sounds, smells, and also the thoughts and feelings that those things provoke. Read here for us, Jasmine.
Sensory detail. The smell of the bush, the smell of the dust and grass, caught at Ma Ramatsu's heart as it always did, and now there was added a whiff of wood smoke, that marvelous acrid smell that insinuates itself through the still air of morning as people make their breakfast and warm their hands by the flames. Smith 196.
What did you think of this example?
It's really descriptive. I don't know if we still use insinuate like that, or maybe it's a definition that I don't know, but that was kind of confusing. But it's really like whiff of wood smoke flows well because of alliteration, and it's just really like pinpointy.
And keep in mind that if it's not the use of insinuate that you are used to, that the author might be using it in a bit of a creative way, like take a little bit of a liberty with it, where insinuate usually means to it can also mean to get yourself involved in something, and it can mean to take away meaning from something, but they might be using an older use of it or using it with a little bit of creative liberty. But you're right, there's a lot of sensory detail. We are smelling, we are feeling, right? There's warmth, there's smell, there's touch. So you want to hit upon as much as you can in order to make the person feel like they're within the pages of that story, right? They're feeling engaged and connected. However, you can overdo it, right? Easily overdo it. So as writers for an American audience, that would be your teachers, your professors, your peers, right? Every bit of description has to have a purpose. Why am I learning about how something feels when it's not an important part? If I feel like it's slowing down the story for you to describe how the sweater feels, then that shouldn't be in there, right? Sensory detail is not just interesting because it's sensory detail. It should also serve a purpose. You don't want to feel like the story is delayed for this sensory detail. The reader always wants the forward action to be stopped for a purpose. It needs to add something. Nathan, can you read here, please?
Not every sense needs mentioning. I tentatively approached the door. It had a smooth, egg-shaped brass doorknob and turned without resistance. I pushed open the door and looked around the room that smelled smelled of rose water and ozone. I turned and walked with cracking footsteps across the hallway to the next door down on my right at the 2 o'clock position. It was inlaid with mother of pearl in the shape of tuplets. Through the door, I could hear shouting.
Good, good. What do you think of that description, Nathan?
I think like I would like to know, like, is the purpose of this paragraph just to describe what the whole room looks like?
Well, it depends. It seems like they're in a hallway, right? And they're describing the doors in the hallway and they're interacting with the doors. But the purpose of this paragraph is to demonstrate that this is overly done. Have you ever been reading a book and felt like the descriptions just last forever? This is a critique of, there is a very popular critique of the Game of Thrones series by The Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin, that he spends too much time, like he stops the story and will describe what they're eating for like 2 pages. And people, even though he's a very successful author, people still have that criticism of the book, right? Because it just seems like you're stopping to hear minute details of this thing for no reason. So you want to be careful with your description. It's just to show you that you can have too much of a good thing,